of podcasts where sport and business meet, overlap, and where hopefully you can engage in joining the conversation as well as we go through the next few weeks. We've picked a pretty busy week to kick things off, and we have everything from disgruntled Leinster coaches to a changing of the guard of Kilkenny, Munster and Leinster hurling finals this weekend as well. We're going to look ahead to it all and some sporting dates to tell you about with the Sporting Club Ireland as well. Delighted to be joined. My name is Hugh, delighted to be joined by Mark Brandon, who's director of the Sporting Club, and by Walter Walsh, of course, a three-time All-Ireland winner with Kilkenny. And a week, Walter, where Kilkenny are top of the news, even though they're not in a Leinster final. That must be a bit strange, is it?
For all the wrong reasons, perhaps, but yeah, no, it's big here in Kilkenny with Derek Lyng resigning, and a bit of excitement around about who's going to replace him. A few names have been mentioned there, the likes of Henry Shefflin, Eddie Brennan, Tom Mullally, and the other big one then is Brian Dowling, who is managing Kildare and has had a lot of success with Kildare this year.
Absolutely. No, it's interesting. Like, we'll come back to Kilkenny in just a second. But I guess, Mark, look, you and I have been talking this week about the first podcast. There's plenty of ammo here to talk about. But I guess our initial conversation started talking about rugby and Leo Cullen this week in front of the media, under a lot of pressure. Maybe some knives out from at the moment saying, look, you've been there an awful long time. 2015 as head coach, 5 successive losing finalists, and maybe it's time for a change in the guard. And I were thinking, just in the general terms, like, when is the right time to walk away? And what kind of a person does it take to recognize perhaps when, like, my time is up here? I've taken this team, this project, this venture as far as I can go. It's not an easy thing to do.
No, and I think it takes a strong person to walk away. I'm not saying Leo isn't strong, but look at Derek Lyng, for example, walking away this week. He's probably seeing Kilkenny hasn't gone exactly the way it's planned. Probably not the same player pool as there was, and he stepped away and he's passing on the baton to someone else, hopefully to take it forward. But with Leo, look, he's a Leinster man. He loves Leinster. I'm a fan of Leo, but it's been the same voice for a long time, and I think a lot of those noise have come from the Geordie Barrett decision last year, personally, and I think he's probably taking a lot of critique for that. But look, he's backing himself, and he still believes he's the right man for the job. Do I agree? I don't know, but he's come out firing, to say the least.
Listen, Walter, you and I have sensibly walked away from our sporting careers at this stage. Like, I know, like, I'm 46 years of age. You decided 3 years ago, in 2024, I think it was, right, I've had enough inter-county. Your man there is still lining out for his club, like, thinking he can still play rugby. So, like, there's 2 out of 3 of us who have taken the good sense to walk away from our sporting lives here. I don't know, Mark, what do you think about Mark there?
It's funny you say that, Hugh. I went back playing rugby with New Ross Rugby Club last when I retired. And I played with them this year, and I intend on playing with them next year as well. So I'm still actually playing club level hurling and football and rugby. So I don't think I know the right time to walk away either.
I put it to you like this, Walter. If you were guaranteed to be out of the championship come the end of May every year, you'd probably still be playing with Kilkenny as well. What do you reckon?
Yeah, exactly. Oh, look, I love sport, and I'll try and keep going for as long as I can. But it's hard to walk away. Like, Derek Lyng, that must have been a really tough challenge, because he had another year on his contract, and it's really hard to walk away and to know when to walk away. And even looking at myself towards the end of my career, like, I had a few bad injuries, and like, I wasn't starting on the team anymore, and I was coming on in all the games, which was big, because you want to play. Like, that's why you train, that's why you love the game, you like playing. But I maybe stayed on in maybe an extra year or two in hope, and sometimes it's hope what keeps you there. And yeah, just to try and win another All Ireland. That's what kept me on a bit longer. And like, maybe Derek Lyng had that same thing. Like, I hope to win an All Ireland as Kilkenny manager, and it's hard to walk away. And Leo Cullen might be the same. He wants to finish on a positive note. And there's so many sporting players that don't get to finish that fairy tale ending that we're chasing, to win an All Ireland or to win a European Champions Cup. Like, it's always in the back of your mind, and that's why it's so hard to walk away.
The biggest thing for me, Mark, as well in all this is and whether or not Leo Cullen might admit it, but certainly if you look at managers of the years, Arsene Wenger, Bill Belichick, Alex Ferguson, like, ego plays a big part in this, right? Because you have to be able to admit to yourself, I'm not the guy anymore to get the best out of whatever this group is, this bunch of players, whatever, and fresh eyes are needed. And that requires a bit of a ruthless self-assessment and a bit of honesty that perhaps maybe some guys aren't able to go to.
Oh, I would agree. And, you mentioned Alex Ferguson there. Like, one thing about Alex, he did keep things relatively fresh with, his assistant managers. So that was one way of freshening things up. So there was always a new voice. And Leo, to be credit, brought in Jack Nienaber. And, you can look at it few different prisms, but probably a lot of people do think that maybe Jack is the man to lead Leinster forward. So in a way, maybe that not shoot himself in the foot, but that seems to be the word on the street. So look, you do have to be a strong character to understand when to walk away, and certainly ego does play a big part in all of this. Like, we all think we can do what we want to do, and we all back ourselves, and Leo's just backing himself, and rightly so.
Yeah, no, he is. But like, I've been listening to and reading a bit about kind of, I guess, people who believe, Walter, that perseverance is the epitome of success. So in other words, like this never give up attitude ultimately will lead you to success. And I think you can quantify that as relevant when you're talking about, say, inventors, Thomas Edison, Albert Einstein, these guys who are presented with a problem and they believe that they will ultimately get the solution if they work hard enough and they don't give up. But it's a different environment when you're talking about sport, I feel, and you're talking about a squad environment, because you have to recognize what the greater good is and what ultimately is in the best interest of a group of people. And sometimes that isn't what a head coach can offer.
Yeah, it is. And look, there's a lot of factors here. You're looking at the player pool. Joey, like you can be from like you could work harder than anyone, but if you haven't got the talent in that dressing room as a manager,
Yeah.
no, what a success. You're not going to win an All-Ireland final. Like there's a number of factors, but I suppose a lot of these managers have had success as players and even as managers, and they're always chasing that next, I suppose that next high with victory. And sometimes you just have to look in the mirror and say, like, I'm not the right person to lead this team, and maybe this team isn't good enough. So it's a
It's,
hard, it's a hard.
it's a male pride thing, Walter, as well. I don't want to say that obviously women don't encounter the same issues, but definitely, in my perception, is there's a bit of a male egotism at play here as well. Like being able to say, look, I'm not the best guy to do this. You know, I was reading Shane McGrath's column in RTE during the week talking about Mark and Derek Lyng over the years, and he's saying this guy was the hardiest bit of stuff. Like he was just a nightmare to handle, and you could see that. I remember watching him as a player, you know, like just rough and tough and ready. And I'm sure it would have been very difficult for Derek this week to say, look, I have to pass the baton on here, whatever it is that I'm bringing to this Kilkenny group. And whether or not they have the players is maybe a separate question. But as far as he was concerned, what he was bringing to this group wasn't enough to where he wanted to get to. That's a difficult thing to admit.
It is, and a lot of like ego is a big thing. Like I don't think Derek Lyng has an ego at all. Just to get that on the record there as well.
No,
Like
yeah, yeah.
I would have, but like it is like you want to be the boss, like you want to be the man to lead them on, and it is obviously it's chasing the next thing. And when you finish playing, when I eventually finished playing like Mark there, like what are you chasing? Like where are you getting your high? Like what is driving you? And obviously to win as a manager was what drives Derek Lyng and I suppose drove Brian Cody to such success as well. It's just the next thing that you can measure success off. And yes, it's hard when you're not successful. And Derek Lyng like has had success. He's won 3 Leinster titles. We got to an All Ireland final with Derek Lyng as the manager. But in Kilkenny, you're measured on All Ireland wins, not Leinster's, unfortunately. And I suppose the reason he resigned this year, this week, was because they didn't get out of Leinster, and that is something that had you said to me 3 months ago, I wouldn't believe you if you told me that Offaly would go ahead of Kilkenny to get out of Leinster, and that's the reason he resigned. It's no other reason. If he got out of Leinster, even got to the Leinster final, he might have went again next year with the hope that Hugh Lawler and Billy Ryan would be back from their travelling in Australia and the team would be strengthened. And I suppose that idea that they can win an All Ireland, but just with what happened in Leinster this year, comparing it to Munster hurling, like it's like Kilkenny should have got out of Leinster.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
being really blunt and honest about it, and they didn't, and that is the reason he's resigned.
Mark, there's no egos in this room. I've been telling you all week, I demanded that this podcast be called a Hugh Cal podcast, but you weren't having any of it. It's an absolute disgrace, to be honest
I'm
with you.
sorry.
So I'm
Sorry,
still
Hugh.
smart. I'm still smarting from that. But like, if you take it to the Leo Cullen situation, bring it back to the rugby a second, you know, like watching his demeanour in front of the media this week, he was very defensive, I thought, Mark. And like, I know, like, I'm kind of interested in body language and watching people, particularly in adversity, how they kind of approach things. He was very defensive. A lot of the stuff he said was quite, and like, I don't want to be harsh here, but it's quite babbly. There was no real structure on it. And he struck me as someone who was really feeling the pressure, I thought.
Yeah, no, he's under massive pressure. Like, You know, I'm a big rugby fan, like, you know, Hugh, and I've been listening to Leo now for the good to was it 10 years, and you know, his message is generally the same, and you know, he's always quite coherent and never defensive, but his demeanor has changed the last little while. I think the pressure of that fifth star has got to him. I think he's looking for little things to create that us against the world mentality. It didn't work for the Bordeaux
Siege.
game. So
Yeah.
yes, yeah. So look, I think Leo, personally, I think he'd have stepped down if they'd won against Bordeaux last week. So now he's under pressure, and look, it'll be interesting to see what he does next. And a job like that brings a lot of pressure. Like, no one else is judged like Leinster are judged. If you don't win the Champions Cup, it's not a successful season. So it's a bit
Absolutely,
of pressure
but
itself.
you could argue as well that their resources obviously dictate
Yeah.
that is the ultimate aim for them. I mean, they essentially have an Irish team they put out. Their budget is up there with anything you see, you know, in the top 14 in France. And they deserve to be judged on that bar, I think, Mark. You know, it's not
I
unfair
agree.
to say that's the goal and that's the target here, no?
Well, I fully agree. Look, I'm a huge Irish rugby fan, and I'm a Connacht fan, but I want Leinster to win the Champions Cup because it's good for Irish rugby. And yes, they should have at least 3 more stars. And do you know what? They might have missed their opportunity now because with the new budgets, all that kind of stuff, their player pool is going to diminish. Frawley's gone, Will Connors is gone. There's no talk in IQs. So look, they may have missed the window. So yes, I think they're rightly judged at that high standards because they have wonderful players, wonderful resources, and yes, I suppose it's just unfortunate they haven't got the job done.
Well, I tell you what, you may tear up your season ticket for the Dexcom Stadium there after that comment. A Connacht fan wanting Leinster to succeed. Jesus Christ, you'll be run out of Galway the next time you go down there. I can tell you. My cousins will kill you for one of them anyway. From Westport.
Anyway,
Come here, Walter. Like I guess, like we mentioned, Ferguson, Bill Belichick as well. There's a ruthlessness there. Brian Cody had a ruthlessness. I remember reading a couple of the players when they came out of retirement, Eddie Brennan being one, obviously Henry, that Brian Cody like had this separation between himself and the players. Like there was no camaraderie, there was no like real arm around the shoulder. He was very much black and white. Do you serve the purpose that I require of you? And that's to me why he was so successful, one, and why he was able to go on so long. And I'm not sure if Leo Cullen fits that kind of frame as that kind of ruthless streak that will do whatever is necessary to get over the top. Maybe that's unfair, but it just doesn't strike me that when I listen to him.
Yeah, look, Brian was like there was a bit of fun in Brian as well. There was a bit of that, but it was always on his terms. Like you were laughing if he was laughing. That was the way it was. And I think the way Brian, I suppose, the arm around the shoulder, he dealt with players very, very differently. He could go a whole year without talking to a player who could be the star player who starts every game, plays really well, wins all stars without even having to speak to him. Then there was other players like me that I don't know. I say he tried everything with me just to try and get the most out of me. But it's yeah. He just had a different relationship with players. Yes, he was the boss, but he, I suppose, commanded respect more than demanded it. Like his whole, I suppose his whole ethos, the whole way of managing is built upon respect. And like, you know, just we're amateur players when you're playing with your county, and like you could be in college. If you had an exam, Brian Cody, oh, get yourself sorted. If work, oh, that's more important. You do, like, he was very understanding, but he was the guy ruling with this iron fist, and he was the man in the dressing room. But I think maybe, I suppose, players changed like over the years. When the likes of Henry was playing, even though I got to play with Henry as well, and I didn't get to play with Eddie Brennan, but that time there was so many talented players in our county that it like he didn't have to kind of put the arm around the shoulder or protect the player more so because there was someone as good to come in, and he was just able to chop and change. But as the years went on, when I was there, like the players weren't as strong. Like he needed the players more than he did when he was winning all the All Irelands. And I suppose young people change. Like people were just thinking nothing of going off to Australia, whereas 15, 20 years ago, nobody did that. If you're on the Kilkenny panel, you were staying there because maybe you were getting the success. But now players across all counties are just, they're leaving to go to Australia with their friends, and the whole dynamic has changed a bit. But Brian definitely did change a bit with that because maybe he had to as well. But nah, he was the man.
So he was able to he was able to adapt then according to the circumstances that he had around. I remember reading Jackie Tyrrell's book soon after he retired, and basically the retirement conversation with Jackie Tyrrell and Brian Cody, and bear in mind what Jackie Tyrrell did for Kilkenny, was well, that's it now, Jack. Like that's it. Like, and it was literally, well, that's it now. The time is up, and off you go. And Jackie was like, "Is that it?" He's like, "Yeah, that's it," and off he went. And it was as short and as sweet as that. Now, Jackie said he was left under no impression that there was no room for him to continue as far as Brian was concerned. But I thought, Jesus Christ, there's a fella who probably deserved a bit more than a few. But that was just the way Brian handled that situation.
Yeah, that was it. I suppose there was no beating around the bush about it. Like he wasn't needed anymore, and it's particularly even strange with that because it's Jackie Tyrrell who's the same club as Brian Cody, James Stevens, like, and
Yeah.
like you would think they would have had an unbelievable relationship and they nearly would have been best friends. But he was very good at separating himself from being the manager and I suppose with the players as well. Like yes, like there was no getting to know him too well as well. He kept that distance, which is, I think it's important as well because you have to separate yourself from the players because you're there to do a job and his job was to be successful and he definitely achieved that.
Yeah, Mark, it's interesting, really. Like, if you look at, and I don't know if you've had many bosses over the years that you particularly remember for, for just wanting to follow, wanting to kind of please, wanting to go the extra mile for, and then other guys and other women that I would have worked for, where you kind of actually shun away from what they're telling you because of maybe the dynamic in the relationship, because of how they carry themselves, because of how they present the message. It's very much, I guess, how you tailor it to the environment that you're in.
Yeah, I actually thought about that last night, Hugh.
Did you?
Between actual rugby coaches, sporting coaches, and bosses. And to be fair, I've had my fair share of actually incredible bosses. Some I probably wasn't ready for. I was maybe a bit young and my tenure a bit immature. But no, one thing that each boss that I had, they all that had success, all created a really good culture. So they actually did want, as you said, go that extra mile for them. And I imagine Brian Cody. I don't obviously never met Brian, but I imagine the culture he created was probably second to none, and that's probably why he was in that role for so long with continued success. Because you do have to pivot as a leader, because what worked yesterday will not work tomorrow, and that's the same in business as it is in sport. Like it's the same. We're talking about Leo Cullen now, but if you're a CEO of a FTSE 500 or whatever, they have to pivot as well, or their leadership style has to change for, I guess, the people they're in charge of. So, yeah, I've had some actually great managers and on and off the field. So, and I now start taking the learnings I should have taken then.
Look at Bill Belichick. I mean, he's got a 25-year-old girlfriend, lads. I mean, you know what I mean? On the one hand, like, what the actual fuck is he doing? And on the other hand, like, what the actual... Could you imagine the dinner conversation between Bill Belichick and his 25-year-old girlfriend? What are you doing today, honey? Well, I'm off to learn the latest TikTok dance, darling. Do you want to join me? No, thanks. I'm struggling to put on my trousers without having a heart attack. I'll leave you to that one. Like, it's absolutely...
It's crazy. I have 25 pills to take now.
Just to be able to stand up in the morning.
Yeah.
Do you think, Mark, like, do you think, just to go back to what I said, because I had this conversation with somebody this week about, like, that time when you realize it's the time to walk away. Do you think women are better at it than men? Do you think that ego that I was talking about, that male pride, is a factor when determining whether or not somebody is prepared to walk away? I'm not so sure, but it's an interesting one.
That's a tough question.
Yeah.
I think it's a tough question. To be honest, and my better half, Aoife, I kind of use her as a barometer a lot because I spend a lot of time with her, do lots with her. She makes a lot of better decisions than me, and she's walked away from certain things at the right time. Look, in the sporting world, the business world, I have to say females tend to make some pretty good decisions. We did speak about the ego thing. As men, like, we just want to be the best of the best, so it is hard to walk away. I haven't walked away from sport because I have two crazy kids now as well, so it's nice to get out of the house. But I'd missed the friendship group, I'd missed competing, all that kind of stuff. So there's a lot that comes with it. I know I haven't fully answered your question because it's a tough one to answer. But
there's no hard and fast rule, I think. Like, I wasn't asking. I just, like, when I started thinking about it, I was talking to somebody about this week, and she kind of gave the perspective. Well, in her view, it does seem mostly a kind of a male quality, if you like, Walter, that guys will dig in almost like in some sort of maybe misguided sense that I have to prove myself a lot more hard and fast than maybe perhaps a woman would. And I don't know if that's not obviously carte blanche across the board here, but certainly in her experience, and when she started making the argument, I could absolutely see what she was talking about.
Yeah, I think so. And a lot of, I suppose, successful sports people have that a lot of pride about what they've done, and they want to keep that, and it's hard to walk away. Look, I'm not. Everyone is different, male, female. Like I think if you want to be successful, that is you take good pride in that. And whether it's sport or business, I think they go hand in hand. I think it's also important there as well to take risks, and maybe men take a bit more risks in that regard. And like in sport and business, you have to take risks. Like Brian Cody, I was at a business lunch for Wicklow GA earlier in the year. Brian Cody
Go
was
on,
the
Wicklow.
one of
Go on, yeah.
yeah, go on. Brian Cody was there, Jim Gavin was there, and Niall Malloy, who was with Echelon, who sponsor Wicklow GA. But Brian Cody was there. He didn't know I was in the room actually because I was invited up because social ties at work with Wicklow GA, and he talked about t taking risks. And obviously, Brian Cody took a massive risk in 2012 when I'd never played with Kilkenny. Played my first game in an All-Ireland final replay and got awarded man of the match.
Galway.
But he never,
Yeah.
he actually never mentioned me. But if he had known that I was in that room, he wouldn't have told that story. Like that's the kind of person he is. Like he wouldn't even mention it. And I was chatting to him after, and I'd say he was like, "Oh, I didn't know you were there. I wouldn't have said it." But at least he didn't mention my name, but he mentioned my story, and he just talked about like you have to take risks in sport to be successful. Like the All-Ireland final replay, like obviously Kenny performed relatively well. Galway played the same team. Kilkenny had three changes, and it's just about having to take risks. And he mentioned it in sport business, they're aligned in that you have to take risks. And like I suppose the best leaders, like as what Mark said, like it's all about developing that culture. And Brian Cody, as you said, certainly did that.
Look what Davy Fitz did with Shane O'Donnell as well in the Clare replay. I mean, obviously coming out and scoring a hat-trick in the replay. I mean, that was a massive risk seen at the time. Now, look, we now know the talent that he brings, but I accept at the time it was a risk as well. Can I just take you back to, like, what do you think it was about you, Walter, that, say, was different from a Jackie Tyrrell or whoever else, that Brian recognised, look, I need to be a bit different with Walter. Like, and obviously it worked for you, and you appreciated the way he managed you versus somebody else. But, like, he was obviously able to spot that he needed to be a bit different maybe with you than he would have been with, say, with Jackie Tyrrell or someone.
Yeah, there was definitely players like Killian Buckley. He might not even spoke to a whole lot because he did. He was very like maybe self-driven. Everyone there is driven, but it's just I think I'm a player I need to be communicated with a lot. Maybe overthinking different things, just to not to say, oh, you're going great or you're not. But he tried to, like I was communicated with, and I needed that. I needed to. I supposed to be talked to from the different management team, different selectors or the manager if it's Brian Cody, but. You know, everyone's different, and you can't just go with the same approach with everyone. And I think a lot of people looking at Brian Cody think, oh, he just didn't talk to anyone, didn't have a relationship. This is the way we're doing it. And yes, he was very like that collectively as a group. Like this is what we're doing. Like he was the boss. But like you have to deal with people in different ways because everyone's different. And if you want to get the most out of them, you have to have different relationships with different people. And I definitely would have benefited from the way Brian dealt with me. And like Killian Buckley had a great career as well. Like not that he didn't talk to him, but you wouldn't see him talking to him as much because he didn't need it.
He
Some
didn't need
players
it.
just don't need
Yeah.
it.
He didn't need it. It's interesting as well, Mark. Like one of the other big, I guess, attributes of successful managers, business leaders as well, is being able to recognize the need for change and actually implementing the change. You know, and for to take it back to Leo Cullen this week, like I wonder, does he see something in his approach in the last couple of years that he is now willing to change and do differently that will enable him to justify staying on the job? If he doesn't, I'd put it to you, he's wasting his time because they have tried the same thing for the last few years and come up short.
Yeah, no, I agree. And, there's a bit of self-awareness in there. They have tried different things. And just on Walter's point there again, I'm not trying to change it, but I thought he made some good points. But a good manager recognized that different people need to be dealt with differently, and that's where good leadership comes from. With Leo's situation at the moment, look, it's a very topical point, and I have spent time thinking about it because Leo comes across to me as a very likable fella. I don't know the ins and outs, if he has a dressing room, if he's lost the dressing room, I don't know. What I do know is the same message over 10 years, the impact probably lessens. You probably have, not that you surround yourself with yes men, but the higher you rise, the longer in the job, the more yes men there are. So is his message still being heard? Do you know what I mean? Like that is the question I ask myself, because I'm not sure, because I think if I was in that dressing room for that length of time and maybe things hadn't gone as planned, we haven't got our stars, now we look further away than ever, maybe the message is falling a little bit on deaf ears, and to get where we want to go, there probably does have to be some sort of change. Whether he goes up top and someone comes in underneath him or something, I think probably a fresh voice is probably needed, and that's nothing against Leo Cullen at all. I very much admire and respect the man.
What's your view, Walter, looking at the Leinster situation from your perspective here? I know you're playing. What position are you playing, by the way? Second row?
No, everyone thinks I'm second row, but I've played rugby since I'm 5 years of age, and I used to
Good
always
stuff.
play number 10. Number 10 was where I was playing, but since I've
Jesus,
come back,
a big
yeah.
shocking
So
boot on you, I'd say, yeah?
well, yeah, good left peg on me, but my goal kicking since I've been back, I haven't been asked to kick for goals since I'm back, but I've been playing second centre with New Ross Rugby Club, and
Lovely.
like, look, really enjoyed it. Like, you know, like I wouldn't go near the forwards. Like, I wasn't always tall for my age. I was growing up, like, so. I wasn't thrown in the front row, or not front row, even the second row. Definitely not the front row.
Yeah.
But yeah, I will never go into the scrum. I'm never going into the pack. I've made that very clear. Like, that's
Stay
my
away
trajectory
from
as I
those
get
characters.
older.
You're dead right. Yeah.
No, that's not for me. It's not for me. But like, yeah, no, definitely. Like, looking in at Leinster, like Leo Cullen, I remember maybe 10 years ago coming down to watch Kilkenny train, and he was obviously trying to mold himself off Brian Cody. And since then, I've heard like Sandy Farrell that have gone to Limerick to see what they're doing with their culture. So they haven't come down to watch Kilkenny train for a while, but maybe in the future. But I like Leo Cullen as a manager. I think he's an excellent manager. Like, and we're talking about them not winning, yeah, the European Champions Cup again. Like, but like, were they good enough? Or like, I think Bordeaux are a better team, and I think you have to kind of step back and look at it like that. They weren't the best team, and that's why I think they didn't win. And I know we're talking about the funds that they have and different things like that, but if you look at the team they're playing, I think they're better than them. I think they play them again tomorrow. Bordeaux will win again, and I think that's sometimes you just have to look at it and say that team is better than me. We were second best on the day, and just accept it. And Leo Cullen, I think I don't know who's going to replace him, but I'd be an advocate for him staying. He's done a great job there.
Yeah, you're nodding away there, Mark. You agree with that, do you?
I actually do agree on the point that Bordeaux are a better team. And I do think if they played 10 times at the moment, Bordeaux would probably win 8. And people talked about the heat factor, the warm-up factor. There was excuses left, right, and centre. But the reality is, that's an unbelievable Bordeaux side. So, and when they're on, actually, they're probably a better side than Leinster. They're probably as good as many international teams. So that is a good point, Walter. And by the way, I just want to go back. I'm not trying to remove Leo either. I just think the best leaders don't resist change. They recognise when they are the change that is
No,
needed.
I've just emailed Jerry Thornley and Rory O'Connor saying Mark Brandon calls for Cullen's head on
I
a
want
platter.
Leo to come to my
Huh?
new studio event.
I tell you, yeah, he mightn't turn up at the Sporting Club Ireland if he can go. No, listen. And then I know this is like it's a general conversation as well. And look, like by all accounts, there's no appetite within Leinster to change Leo Cullen. We haven't heard anything to the contrary. They're playing in a semi-final of the URC this weekend as defending champions. They have reached 5 finals in a row, and as you say, he's a very affable, very well-spoken, articulate guy. You know when he wants to be. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. But look, it's just from the outside looking in. You know, on a group of guys who clearly need to get over the line at some stage, easy the guy to take them forward. Look, we should mention, Mark, in terms of the Sporting Club Ireland, we have a big night next Friday night. We're going to do one of these podcasts every week for people who are interested, who might get something out of this. We're just trying to bridge the gap, I guess, the crossover between the sports world and the business world. There's so much in common, there's so much similarity, and there's so much where they do interlap as such. And we're trying to just generate the conversation around that. As well as add to the community that you're trying to build, Mark, and the business you're trying to build. We have a big night with Harry Redknapp next Friday night.
Yeah, so we've lunch with Harry next Friday in Clontarf Castle. It's in association with Jack and Jill. An impressive business room at the moment. We'll have some other sporting guests in the room as well, very recognisable faces. So yeah, we're looking forward to a good afternoon. Harry will be good value. He always is. So it should be another good afternoon and moving a step in the right direction what we're trying to build.
Yeah, if anyone would like to come along, by the way, I know it's late notice. We do have a couple of spots still left open. So if you just go on to the LinkedIn page of the Sporting Club Ireland and get in touch with Mark directly, we will look after you. It should be a cracking day, as we said. We do have some news as well to talk about, guys. Walter, I don't know how much of a boxing fan you are. I think the entire country of Ireland is behind Katie Taylor when she's going to fight in Croke Park. Her final ever professional fight in September, the 5th of September. The Sporting Club Ireland are going to do a big preview in the Sugar Club, by the way. That's maybe for another day down the line, just to look back on her career. I have followed her career since she was 15 years of age, and there's nobody more deserving of a big send-off in Croke Park, Walter.
I'm absolutely delighted to hear that news there this morning. Like she deserves it. Of all the sporting greats that Ireland have produced, like she's right up there. And I'm delighted that's in Croke Park because that's what she wanted. You know, it's been talked about for years, and yeah, I just think she deserves it. I think it'd be a sellout. It's going to be a massive occasion, and look, I'll definitely be going to it if I get the tickets now as well. So that's my plan. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's a huge night, Mark. Like, obviously, like you and I are huge fans of Katie Taylor. Everything that she has done for not just women's sport, women's boxing as well, but for this country, you know, like she has put Ireland on the map in terms of international boxing, both professional and amateur. And I'll never forget London 2012. Ochagawa, that first Olympic gold medal. This is the night she has dreamed of. She has dreamed of this since she was a little girl, and she's going to get it happen. Fair play to Eddie Hearn. Fair play to all the people in Croke Park. They're making this happen.
She's an absolute trailblazer, Hugh. And look, I'm a huge boxing fan, a huge Katie fan. My wife is her biggest fan. And look, I honestly think those tickets could be gone in milliseconds. Like, I know it's 80,000, but I genuinely think there'll be absolute gold dust because who wouldn't want to be there to see off Katie in her final fight? For, as you said, everything she has done. She's incredible. She's just a true role model. Everything she does is the right thing. If you have a daughter, you want her to be like Katie Taylor, although I don't want my daughter to box, but I think she's incredible, and I hope to get tickets for that. Looking forward to our preview night in the Sugar Club, but delighted Eddie has forked up and got it happening.
Yeah, we took a bit of a jump there. We kind of got whispers that this might be in the offing. So we booked the Sugar Club. We have a panel assembled. Details to be confirmed, but it's going to be a cracking night. And tickets will be on sale in the coming weeks as well. It's a big tribute to Katie as well as a preview of her fight. Her opponent's still to be confirmed. But look, all that details to come. The main thing is that it's happening and she gets her big send-off. And Walter, all good with you at the moment? Yeah, you're busy business-wise. I know you're going to plenty of gigs at the moment as well. I met you in a couple. Luckily, recently we were at a pitch in Dublin as well at a Sporting Club Ireland GA night. But things are going well for you, obviously, yeah?
Yeah, so with Socialise, I suppose the new business, I'm working with them now a year, and we have some big sporting communities on our books now as well. So we're after partnering with obviously Kenny GA. We're launching with Kerry there in the coming weeks. Hockey Ireland, Wicklow GA, Carlow GA, Waterford GA. Like, so it's there's a lot going on. We're with the Punchestown Racecourse for their festival as well. So it's really
Brilliant.
busy, really enjoyable as well. Dealing with a lot of sporting organisations, and I suppose we're providing a good service for them. So yeah, it's going really, really well. So yeah, all good my end.
Okay, and before I let you go, I have to ask you: Limerick or Cork this weekend? Who are the €5 going on?
I'm going to go with I think Limerick. Yeah, I think Limerick will win the All Ireland this year. Yeah, I think
really even Páirc Uí Chaoimh. Like I think John Milan. I was listening to John Milan and the Indo podcast this week saying it hasn't been done. Like Limerick haven't beaten Cork in the final in a long, long time. So they'd be booking the history trend there.
Yeah, records are there to be broken. I know Kilkenny were breaking the wrong records by the early exit this year, but I think Limerick will have too much for them. I think a few injuries in Cork as well. So yeah, I think Limerick they'll beat them this time, and I think they will be in the All Ireland final again, the two teams. And I think
what about Dublin and Galway? There's a bit of a growing sense that maybe Dublin are gonna do it this year. Would you ascribe to that?
Yeah, look, they've been really, really good. They beat Galway and they beat Kilkenny in their last two games. So yeah, I think they're going to be they're much more competitive, and I'm looking forward to that game. I think it's going to be a really close game. I don't know who's going to win it. I suppose on form you'd have to go with Dublin, but yeah, I think it's going to be really close. So yeah, I'll throw the other five rounds on Dublin. Well, I'm going to the match with you, Mark. So I'm going to go for Dublin just to make it a bit more competitive. I'm going to go with Dublin.
Mark won't be allowed to sit with the Galway fans after his comments about Leinster wanting to win the trophy. There, I can tell you that. He'll have to go over and get a blue jersey.
Some strong editing.
Yeah. Okay. And look, I saw Dublin against Wexford, but it was a bit of a nothing match. There was a strong win at the time, and it wasn't anything to write home about. But look, it'll be a cracking weekend of finals in the hurling. So enjoy that. Walter, it's been a pleasure having you on. Thanks so much. Just a quick reminder, Harry Redknapp next Friday night with the Sporting Club Ireland. We're going to be back next week doing a big World Cup preview. We're going to talk about the numbers involved, the business side of the World Cup. It's an absolute juggernaut at the moment between FIFA and obviously the United States involved as well. Ticket prices we hear are through the roof, but they seem to be selling pretty well. We're going to talk to a special guest next week. Details to be confirmed. Mark, thank you so much.
Pleasure, guys. Pleasure.
Walter, enjoy your week. And look, thanks so much for coming on. We'll have you on again.
Thanks very much,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Cheers, guys. Thanks a million.
Cheers. Thanks a million.